Good morning, good morning. Yeah, it's still morning here in the UK. So today I thought I would do a what's in my toolbox video. As you can see, it's garbage weather here in the UK today. Not very clever at all. So not a lot getting done outside today. Maybe some house jobs, but I thought, yeah, let's have a look at what's in my toolbox. What would I take when I went out to go and collect some firewood? So collecting firewood is something I do more of a hobby. Obviously it's a necessity for me. We use quite a lot of wood every year. We'll probably start burning mid to late September, and I think this year I was still burning right up until mid-June. So as you can imagine, we do use quite a lot of firewood in our house. We do have the gas central heating like a lot of homes in the UK, but I tend not to use it if we can help it. Gas has just gone through the roof, so for me, if I can burn free firewood, then it's a must for me. Obviously, I think a lot of you can relate to it. The more firewood you get, the more you seem to feel that you need. So like I said, it's become more of a hobby. It's obviously a necessity, but it's something I enjoy. I'm not one to sit around and watch TV. I like to be out, I like to be active, I like to be constructive. I'm not scared of hard work, which is something a lot of guys who do stuff like this is, you pretty similar, probably a pretty similar mindset. Like I say, in my bio on my page, I've got a bit of a prepper mentality. Something I've had for years, so I do go a bit OTT with firewood. But yeah, try and rack up some decent kit. I have a couple of Powersaws now. I have an MS441 and I have an MS261. For me, the 261's an awesome saw. Pound for pound, it takes some beating. People run them with big bars, but for me, run it with a smaller bar. Run it with a smaller bar. That's my dog. Going crackers. Run it with a smaller bar and it'll work all day long. The 441, I'll probably run that with a 20-inch bar most of the time, but I do have a 28-inch bar if needed. I think the 28-inch bar is better for falling stuff when you're cutting up. When you're bucking, you don't have to bend down as much. I don't know about anybody else, but when I've been bent over for quite a long period of time, I get some serious backache. I think it's just part of manual working most of my life, so it is what it is, So anyway, toolbox, let's see what I take out for a day's logging. I'm sure most of you will have a lot of the stuff that I have. Some of you might have, things that I don't have. So anybody that's got any hints or tips, anything I should have in my toolbox that I don't have, then shout me up in the comment section, give me a heads up. I'm all ears. But like I say, it might be informative for some people who are just starting out, who've recently got their own log burner installed or open fire, and they want to start collecting some firewood. They know the basics, what they need. You need an axe, you need a chainsaw. You definitely need some chainsaw pants, or I have chaps. Ear defenders, definitely. Something I would always recommend. Working in an industrial environment, majority of my life, I always thought I didn't need things like ear defenders, but yeah. Got into my mid-40s and I hear high-pitched ringing every now and again, so I think I do need to keep up with the ear defenders. But anyway, we'll get to it. Let's crack on. Right then, here we go. So, let's start with the top. So the top section are basically just keep my chalks, different coloured chalks. The chalk for me comes in handy for multiple reasons. Obviously, if I have a specific size log I need to cut, I do collect our firewood, but I also help get my family's firewood, and everybody has a different size burner. I know mine, I can get about 35-36 centimetre logs into mine, whereas my dad's, I think he gets 24-25 centimetre logs, so as you can imagine, some variation. I like to make sure my logs are the right size for stacking in my sheds. I can't be doing with logs that are different sizes. Obviously there's times when, you know, there's nothing you can do, you're at a bookend, something like that, or you're just on a short log, so you know, it is what it is. I try to keep all my logs the same size. So chalk for marking, but I also use chalk for marking my chains when I'm sharpening. So I'll mark the tooth on one side, go right round the bar, sharpen my chain, obviously spin my chain round, mark it with chalk again, and round I go. That way I know where I've started. So it just saves extra looking. I'll get in my glasses to see which tooth's been sharpened. So chalk. Right then. One of the most important bits of kit for me. As I said earlier, E-defenders are a must. Especially the bigger the saw you get, the louder they are. The 441 I've got sounds like a 2-stroke motocross bike. So when you brain that all day long, you can end up with some serious ringing in your ears at the end of the night. So E-defenders are a must. You can get the plugs, what you put in your ears, but I just find overall these are more comfortable. They just seem to sit better, and they do seem to give better protection than the actual plugs. So E-defenders, definitely recommend. Glasses. Safety glasses are a necessity. You know, you can get anything thrown back off your chain. You know, if a tooth came adrift, if you've hit something in the log, even just a bit of chip, anything go in your eye. The only thing I do find problematic with glasses is that they can steam up, or if you're working outdoors and it's raining, they become a bit of a mess. So Wrangler Star, a chap that I follow, he recommends the mesh glasses. If you've never watched his videos, I definitely recommend him. I've been a follower of Wrangler Star for probably 7 years, 8 years, probably longer to be honest. And yeah, a lot of the stuff I picked up over the years, he's had an impact on, so definitely recommend that chap. He's a decent dude and all. But yeah, safety glasses, if you can get the mesh ones, it saves them steaming up. I do need to invest in some. So the PPE glasses, the E-defenders. Sterile dressing or gauzing. You know, God forbid nothing would happen while you're out on your own, but you know, there's a good chance something could. You're working with an extremely dangerous piece of kit. So if you can bung a cut up with some gauze in or dress it, it's going to give you a better chance of bleeding out. You know, there's been some horror stories, and there always will be working with chainsaws. Like I said, the dangerous bits of kit, but you know, they're needed to do what we do. So I definitely recommend having some kind of gauze in or some kind of dressing. I always take electrical tape with me. It multi-purpose, comes in for many things, but it could also help wrap a dressing up tight. I do wear a belt on my trousers all the time, so God forbid if I ever took a lump out of my leg or my arm, I could get it tightened up and stop the blood flowing to the arm. So, you know, things like that you always want to have in the toolbox. I think as you get older, you start to realise things like that become more important. So it's not having an immature mindset about it. Next we have hatchet. Hatchet for me comes in for many things. It can also be used as a wedge. You can see that. So if you run out of wedges and your bar snags, you can use it as a wedge. You can braid it in with a log if you need to. But yeah, it comes in for many different things. I often use the hatchet with a wedge. You know, as you know, when you've got a suspended tree and you start to cut through, it's going to snag. The top's going to close in while the bottom stays tight, so you generally need a wedge. So basically, the wedge in the top when you've been cutting, if it's going to start snagging up, and hook it in. So that is the wedge and the hatchet. The tape measure. I can generally judge my size logs now. Pretty much quite accurate. I think when you've been doing something so long, it tends to become like programmed into your mind. But like I say, if I'm doing different logs for different people, one of my pals or my father, I'll always have a tape measure just to make sure that I'm running around the same length as I should be. So tape measure there. What else do we have? Eye wash. That's a new addition to my toolbox. I've only had it in there for probably a year, something like that. It was something I never really thought about taking, but I did get some shite in my eye some time ago, and it ended up putting me off. It had gone in through the back of my glasses, and I had to break off what I was doing to go home and get my eye washed out. So eye wash could be the difference between continuing working or having to call off and go and get your eye sorted out. So definitely something I'd recommend in the toolbox. Spark plug wrench. 2 different sizes there. You never know if you're going to be working alongside somebody who has a different size saw, so it's probably best to have 2 different sizes. I do have 2 different wrenches, to be honest. Those 2 are both the same size, but they've got different ends. One's a torque end, so when you're working on Stihl chainsaws, the majority of the screws on the Stihls are torque wrench fittings, so that's what that is. But I do also have posi drive on that side. So spark plug wrenches. What else do we have? Screwdrivers. Screwdrivers are for, basically the only time I use a screwdriver is for tensioning the bar when I swap the chains. It's really the only time I'll need a screwdriver on a Stihl chainsaw. There is some screws where you need a screwdriver, but it's basically for just tensioning your chain. So I have 2 different ones. If one gets lost, I've always got a backup. What else do we have? Mole grips. Don't know what the Yanks call them. We call them mole grips. Always worth having in your chainsaw toolbox. It's not very often you'll need them, but they're there if you need them, and they can adjust to any size and they lock off. So a good bit of kit really, but not necessarily needed. Better to have them than not have them. What else do we have? Just a mini socket wrench there. It's got torque screws, small sockets, posi drives, flat-ended screwdriver bits, and a tiny wrench, as you can see. And that is a mini wrench. Like I say, it's not very often I need something like that, but it's better to have it than not have it. If I was to lose my torque wrench on the plug wrench, then I've still got the torque ends in there if needed. I always find it's better to have something and not have it. What else do we have in here? Files. So the files, that one I don't really use, to be fair. So I'll pop that there. But that one, 3/16 Oregon round file. I use them for the majority of my saws. I can use the bigger one, but I never find it gives a better gullet. This one, I can get a good gullet out of the tooth, and I can get it extremely sharp, pretty much back to factory. So they're the Oregon blue tip 316s. Always worth having a box of them, they're extremely important. I learned very early on that chainsaw chains are not cheap, and a lot of people will buy a chainsaw, blunt the chain and go and buy a new chain. I don't know what they're like in the States price wise, but in the UK they're like, for a decent Stihl chain, they're £20 a go. So you can make a chain last forever nearly. Well, not forever, but you can make it last a long time if you can master how to sharpen it by hand. So definitely round files. Learn how to file your own chain. And a flat file. So this file is only used for the rakers. Obviously, as you sharpen your chain, the chain slopes the two slopes as it comes back. You've got your gullet, and the two slopes, you've got your raker. So the further back your chain comes, the further back your tooth comes, the lower the tooth becomes. So as you go back, you need to take your raker off with a flat file. I don't have a depth gauge for the rakers. I should invest in one really, but you know, I can basically tell where I need to be with the raker. So flat file, round file, 3/16 Oregon blue top. They're the ones. They're the ones I use. What else do we have in here? Do you know what that is? I'm sure many of you do. A stump vise. So basically, when I'm out, I'll take 3 chains for a 15-inch bar and 3 chains for a 20-inch bar. Usually that will see me out for a full day with these. But if I was to hit some barbed wire in a tree, some stones, anything like that, and I end up blunting my chains prematurely, then obviously you're going to need to sort your chains out where you are. So a stump vise is always worth taking with you. Once you've booked a few rounds, you can spray it into the vise, spray the vise into the round, clamp your bar in, and away you go. Sharpen your chain up. So definitely worth having a stump vise. It can be the difference between keeping you going and not keeping you going. And I know once you get set out for the day and you're ready, you're mentally set to have a good day of logging, and something unfortunate happens, like I say, you hit some barbed wire in a tree, you hit some nails that have been braided into a tree, you know, you blunt your chains, that's going to keep you going rather than calling it a day. What else do I have? Stihl files. These are quite old, and to be fair, I don't really use them anymore. It's a flat file, Stihl. And there's a smaller file in there. Like I say, I don't use them anymore. They're more there for if I need to have them. Right. Spares. Always worth having some spares for your saws. If I'm going to be honest, I don't have enough spares for my kit. There are some perishable bits that I could do with keeping, or I could do with getting to keep in my box, but I have some basics in here. Like I say, if you loosen a bar nut, if you think your boot's not performing, it can keep going. So, fuel line, worth having. Probably not something that's going to go in the middle of a wood, but it's there anyway. Bar nuts, I've lost plenty over the years, and I have had to cut a day short before because I didn't have a spare bar nut. Something so cheap and so plentiful can stop you doing what you need to do, so always have some spare bar nuts. I have a few bar nuts, I think, somewhere. Sure. Somewhere. I do have some anyway. There we go. So I've got 3 bar nuts there. Generally the same size for most Stihl saws. I did find I had a MS261 and on the side casing the bar nuts couldn't come off. They were stuck to it, which was really, really good. I just wish that was the case for the 261 and the 441 because you don't really need these then, but you know, hey ho, we've got them. Spare oil and fuel caps. I have had a bar oil cap come off before and I couldn't find it. It was in a load of brambles, nettles. Luckily I had a spare saw, so I managed to keep going, but yeah, spares. What else we got? Some torque screws. Probably not something you're going to need, but it's better to have them than not have them. Like I say, it could be a difference between keeping your exhaust held on and keeping going for the day and not keeping going. Only a cheap one, but a spare pull cord lever handle. I have had one shear off before. I didn't lose it, but it could have been easily lost, so for what it's worth, just a shitty spare one. A spare fuel filter, but that's had it I think, so that can go in the bin. I've got some old spark plugs, a new spark plug for the 261, it'll also fit the 441, so that's ready to go if needed. I have some old spark plugs, as you can see the different fittings. That one fits my friend's saw. He has a MS261 I think it is. So rather than chuck it, I put it in my spares kit. So the next time he's out logging with me, if his plug stops working, I've got an old spare one for him. Clutch spring. I repaired clutch springs on saw not long ago. Two of them were knackered, but that one was okay, and I thought, rather than chuck it, I'll keep it just in case it's needed. Some spare ear plugs. And a pull cord. So in case we have a snap, we can get going again. So that's it for the spares. Like I say, a lot of these things you're never gonna probably need. The bar nuts you are gonna need because you're gonna lose them. You know, it's just how it is. They're just gonna work themselves loose. You're probably not gonna nip them up tight enough, and you're only gonna realise when it's come off, and you're probably not gonna find it. So definitely take time to gather a few bits together and try and get a bit of an ammo kit that's going to keep you going. So that is the spares. There are some things I need to have in there that I know I don't, but if you can think of anything for the 261 or the 441 that should be in there that I haven't got, give me a shout in the comment section, give me a heads up, be appreciated. What else we got? Bearing grease, the clutch bearing. Used to use it on the end of the bars, but on the bar sprocket, they're all closed in nowadays, so you don't really need it. But it's worth having in there. If you end up stripping the clutch out, it's always worth putting a bit of grease on the bearing. Always worth having. What else we got? Paintbrush. That's a cutting in paintbrush. That's what I use just for cleaning the saw, cleaning the inside of the casings. When I strip it down, I can get into some little grooves that I probably won't get with a normal paintbrush. Generally I'll use an air gun to clean the saw, but you know, that's worth having in there just in case. And then I have some long nose pliers, things like clutch springs. If you're struggling to get your fingers into somewhere that's extremely tight, the long nose pliers can be very helpful. So they're in there. old toothbrush. That's not for my teeth, don't worry. That's just what I use for cleaning the saws. Maybe around flywheel, things like that. It comes in handy anyway sometimes, but it stays in my toolbox. Oregon 316s, blue tips. So there's 2 new files there. I have a box in the garage as well. In with my sharpening bits. But yeah, Oregon ones always seem to last really long. Some people say use them once and throw them. I don't see the point. They bang off clean, rub them off, they're good to go again. Obviously they have a shelf life and there's only so many times you can use them, but always have that. That's pretty much it. A penknife and grease. Never know when you need that. It's extremely sharp. Can opener, bottle opener. I think it has scissors, yeah. And some scissors. So that always stays in my toolbox. Not like I'm going to need a bottle opener or a can opener in the wood, but you never know. Also has a corkscrew, just in case I want to have a bottle of wine when I'm vlogging. But yeah, anyway, alas, yamas. That's pretty much it for me. There's a couple of files in there, some spare earplugs, and that little baby. So this bit of kit I use for clearing the dirt and grease out of my bar. So when I've been logging, I clean the saws down, I hook that into the groove into the bar and pull any shite out of it. Generally get oil and sawdust and just grime build up, and that's ideal for cleaning the bar out. The oiler holes as well. So that stays in there. And that, I think, is about my lot. That's it then. So that is my toolbox. That is what I would take on a day's logging. Obviously there's different things I would take with me what won't go in the toolbox. Depending on the size of the wood I'm tackling, I'll take a splitting maul. So if the rounds are extremely big and I'm on my own, rather than try and muscle them into the pickup on my own, I'll split them in half, make life a bit easier. I have my chainsaw chaps, what I take with me. Obviously I'll take my fuel, my 2-stroke oil, my bar oil, both my saws, and that's pretty much it. Maybe do another video on the exact kit that I take with me, we'll see. But yeah, that's it from me. That is, as you can see, my toolbox. Look at that weather today. Good thing about the UK, the weather's brilliant, honest. Okay, so a little remote for the camera. Thank you very much. Bye bye.